see what happens.
Let's work the magic.
You know, we went skating on the rink, and you know, it's an enclosed area skating, and Rob and me were just you know, practicing taking shots against the goalie that we have. This, you know, obscure goalie named Dominic Hasek. We call him in, and he was like taking shots against the Dominator.
Close
and the lights turned off, and also the Jumbotron turned on, and then just something from Venice appears, something in terms of. And Rob turned to me, he's like, "What is happening?" It's like, it must be Venice again. The lights turn off, and the wording starts popping up. Meet me in outer space. We could spend the night. Watch the Earth come up. I've grown tired of this place. Won't you come with me? Could we start again? ... I don't know. Rob, do you know what the enigma?
It was as perplexing as having Dominic Hasek not have pants on while in goal. It made both of these things made zero sense.
Well, to be fair, we couldn't lift the puck off the ground, so he just said, "There's no point." He's like, "You guys suck." I'm like, "It's true."
He actually just sat in a chair and he's like, "Just go ahead, take a shot." Nothing.
Just lies down in front of the net.
You couldn't raise
you
the
didn't
puck.
have to. Yeah, it was a fold-out chair with a small little cup of hot chocolate.
Couldn't raise the puck. Anyways, welcome everyone to the Here's World Quarantine podcast. If you have an idea what that was, what band, what song, please let us know in the comments. I don't know, Rob. I can't figure it out. I think it's an obscure band from the 2000s, but could I put my finger on it? I don't know. We are here to talk about Star Trek: Strange New Worlds, the highest rated Star Trek show of all time, based on the review metrics. So we're going to talk about Star Trek: Strange New World. John, are you surprised that I said the Star Trek is the highest rated Star Trek show of all time?
Yeah, I'm surprised. I feel like there's been a lot of Star Trek shows, but maybe this is the most well received modern Star Trek.
That is the reviews compared to all of Star Trek. No Star Trek has ever gotten the highest review. And take a wild guess. What is the number that this show is?
What are we at? Is it out of 10?
Out of 100.
Out of 100. Let's give it. What I would give it is somewhere around 90.
Rob, what do you think? Do you know, or do you think?
It got a perfect score of 100, I believe.
Whoa.
I think on the things I saw, it was 93.
Okay.
So 93 was the score. Star Trek, I think TNG and the other one, the cartoon with got 91, and then the lowest one. Rob and John, can you guess which Star Trek show got the lowest one?
Is it Picard?
Nope.
It's not Picard. Is it
no.
Is it out of all Star Treks ever?
Trek, yeah.
Is it the Enterprise one?
Oh yes,
yeah,
it was Star Trek. What was the mark it got out of 100, John?
I don't know. Maybe 60 something.
Rob.
This is Scott Bakula one, right?
Yep.
Sorry, what was that, Rob?
47.
47.
54.
54. Wow, that's low. People did not like that shit, eh?
Did not.
Wow.
Did not.
I actually didn't mind it.
Here's the thing. That Star Trek show, if it would gotten the 7 seasons, it progressively got better.
Yes.
To be fair, Voyager and TNG, Voyager and Deep Space Nine both were slogs. Like those first 2 seasons were a mess.
Yeah.
It was 22 episodes. You're like, I don't understand what's going on. This show sucks. And it took its time, just like Parks and Recreation, to really get its bearings. So by the time it really wrapped up, it got really good. Like especially Enterprise. Like by the time I got to season 4, and they were doing some weird. It was just before the CW merger, so it was like, oh, it was still on
UPN.
UPN.
It might have just been before its time, right?
Yeah, it just had some things that people didn't like, but I had moments where I'm like, man, I thought it was the Temporal Wars is what they refer to it as.
Yeah.
So it was pretty awesome. All right, we're here to talk about Star Trek: Strange New Worlds because it is a spin-off of Star Trek Discovery. For those who did not know,
I didn't watch Discovery. Should I watch it, Stu? I didn't watch.
Yes, 100%.
Really?
Just
Okay.
for your girl, Michelle Yeoh is all worth it. Michelle Yeoh is
But
Georgina.
what about the introduction of these particular characters? Should I go back and watch that episode? Okay.
Well, it's only
It's only like
three, right?
season 3, yeah.
It's in season 3, yeah.
Mhm.
And admittedly, I think they probably are the best part of season 3.
They, because when Pike shows up,
it's not just a cameo. It's not
No.
just a backdoor pilot. They're actually in.
No, he takes over command of the ship.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because the Discovery is in dock, and no spoiler because you know Spock's sister is Michael Burnham, so they tie together that like in canon. The way they set it up was that Spock had a sister that was human that they adopted, and she was raised in Vulcan, so she's this combination of like a human with Vulcan tendencies and logic. So then they were able to bring in Spock and then Pike, so they tied it all together in that capacity, and that led to very good reviews and thoughts, and that led to the show being created. So yeah, Strange New Worlds. So let's talk about John. What is your attachment to Star Trek, and what are your thoughts on Strange New World?
Yeah, so I'm probably maybe the least Trekkie out of this panel here. Next Generation, I did see pop up. My cousins used to watch it a lot, and I have great respect for that show. And then for the movies, I think I've only seen the first couple. The one where they saved the whales, of course, because that was played during school. Great movie. I love watching the old William T. Kirk stuff or whatever, the William Shatner stuff. I love seeing that stuff, but I've never sat down and watched the whole thing. And then the new movies I do quite enjoy. So I do have some familiarity with Star Trek. So I did. Are we talking about if we enjoyed the show, or was it just a
general thoughts?
Yeah, general thoughts. Yeah. So I liked it. I really liked this show. I've tried almost all the new Star Trek shows, at least an episode. I didn't try Discovery, but Lower Decks we tried. Picard, I watched a random episode here and there, and none of them have ever stuck. So this one here, which is I feel like it's treading familiar ground, but it's also new ground. So this is it feels like the perfect welcoming for me to get into Trek.
All right, Rob. Same question to you. Your thoughts on Star Trek and your thoughts on the show.
Yeah. So I have a vague familiarity of watching the original series on reruns, as probably all of us did, because none of us were alive, guys, in the 60s. And then 1987, my parents had just split up, and I sat with my mom and my brother, and we watched. I was 11 or 12, 11. And it was the beginning of the first TNG, right? Because my mom was like, oh my God, it's a new Star Trek. And I was like, all right, whatever. And she was all sad and drinking. And I was like, let's just watch it. And so I watched that. And then, I ended up watching all of the Deep Space Nine, and then Voyager. It's like I saw some of those, but admittedly for me, Voyager was one of those ones where I mostly caught those on reruns on Space, because they usually did like 2 episodes a day or whatever, and so I would just like record them and hammer them out and watch them, right? And then I watched Enterprise, and I watched the movies. I remember being a kid and when my parents were still together, and they said we can either go see Gremlins or Star Trek 3, I think, The Search for Spock. I believe it might have been around the same year. And I said, let's go see Gremlins, and I got scared. And my mom was like, we should see Star Trek. So I've watched all these movies. I've ever since number 5, I've gone to see them all in the theater. I've seen every one of them in theaters. I have them all on, digital. I actually really like the JJ verse, the Calvin. I'm sorry, I know people don't like it, but I got to tell you, there's a lot in this show that kind of does mirror the brightness of
there's a lot of lens flares.
Yeah. And for the new stuff, I was not a fan of the cartoon, Lower Decks, Upper Deck, or whatever.
Get off my deck.
I didn't really enjoy Picard season 1. Discovery, I'm like, yeah, it's okay, but this, as we said, was the best part of season 3 of Discovery. And I am all in on this show. We've only watched the first episode. That's what we're going to talk about today. But man, it is so different and so it's bright and it's colorful and it's fun. So I'm stoked. The second episode dropped today as we're recording this. So I'm looking forward to watching.
I've already seen it, and I'm the least Trekkie of these guys.
Right.
But I also have a bit more free time maybe during the day. Stu, you are our Star Trek. What?
Let's do the rating, John. What do you give this out of 10?
So we're talking about clearly episode 1 for a new show, catching your attention, introducing you to characters. I didn't watch Discovery, but I feel like they did a great job of letting me. I didn't know I didn't watch Discovery. You know what I mean? I felt like I was watching a completely new show. So for that, I gotta give it a 10 out of 10. Dude, if an episode 1 can catch me so much so that I've watched episode 2 right when it dropped, and I already sent these clowns messages going, hey, did you guys watch this? I'm talking to all the other Trek friends that I got, and I'm like, hey, I can enjoy Trek with you guys now because I'm all in for this show. I have to. I can't not give it a 10.
Rob?
Shut the fuck up, Rob.
You know what? I'm going to give it a 9.
See, what the fuck? This guy's like busting my chops and he gives it a 9.
I don't even think I did an intro properly to this podcast. I don't think I did introduce anyone. That's how far we are off the rails.
We want to talk about Trek.
Yeah. So let me just, as we pause dramatically, I'm one of the hosts to pay. With me is the owner proprietor of Heroes World. That's John Ho, and from the Mirrorverse himself, Mr. Bumble. There we go. I got that done. Okay, clear. I'm terrible at this job. Yeah, it's interesting to hear your perspective. I'm a big Star Trek nerd. I like you guys. Rob. I watched all the Trek as a kid on Space, and when it used to be rerun on Fox, on Fox WB or WUTV in Buffalo. So I have a very strong feeling to Star Trek. I watched the cartoon. I watched the original series, and I'm very frank by saying that Voyager was hot garbage. Enterprise was all right, but it never got to potential. DS9 is the best Trek of all of it, but some people don't like it because it doesn't follow the traditional model. That's when, it was very it switched from like a different canary to like a long storyline where it was connective. It did a lot of things, and as I said, Ronald D. Moore, who again is the Klingon Jesus, who created the mythos of that, and the Ferengis whole platinum, the rules and acquisition. So they did a lot of world building when Star Trek failed to make the Ferengis actually anything interesting. They were supposed to be the new badass bad guys that they were the Klingons, and we all laughed at them. And then, okay, we'll make them money in the Grand Nagus. So that worked out well. I look back and even I've challenged my friends who love TNG to say, is it good? Like, really? Is TNG really that good? Because if we go back by episodes, I don't think that any of those Enterprise TNG episodes were as good as Strange New World. Like, in terms of just modernization, I see what you're saying, Rob. It was a different time. You couldn't do the level of world building that they're doing. I think that this style of 12 episodes a year using real life locations, using less of the same old we're in a cave set and here we are in the spaceship set and we're back in a cave set and these crappy locations.
We're on a holodeck that looks like the Wild West, but it's really a backyard.
Somewhere in California. But I do think that Star Trek needed just a polish. And I think this show does the best of both worlds. One, the CGI is incredible. Location scouting is great.
The show looks amazing.
It is really beautiful. The writing is always hit or miss. I think Discovery had issues. This first episode so far brought back everything you want in classic Trek in terms of what the situation was, how they resolve it, who Pike is as a captain, a leader, and the fact that he's not perfect, and he is dealing with some stuff that traditionally we don't see in captains. Captains are usually just, when we see them, perfect. Whether it's Janeway, whether it's Kirk, whether it's Picard, whatever Archer, you name your captain from any of those series. Usually they're solid and they don't have any self-doubt. And without spoilers or whatever, Pike has some things he has to resolve. So I think it just does such a better job. And yeah, the polish of JJ went a little too far, but what JJ did bring to the table is using real life locations to really elevate Star Trek. So like even like as people know, like the Star Trek, the engineering was basically the Budweiser brewery. Like all the solids, like they just filmed in the Budweiser brewery, and they're like, yeah, this is cool. Like we're gonna do this.
Yeah.
So like all the metal, everything was like filmed in like the brewery with all those things. So it's one of the things where using the real life stuff, one gets the actors kind of really zoned in, but two, it's like we all know that's real and not CGI. So it is a nice thing. I talked to Mike Barchop, who's me and him do not agree on much, and the fact that both of us are like, Pike is a dreamboat, he's our guy. Like that is a big step where both of us
I love
are
you,
like,
Mike.
Pike, we're on board. We after watching how bad Picard has been, it's just like we talked about before, like have they even seen Star Trek? Like it's just really questionable, and that fan service is just over the top. This episode at least was a nice balance. We'll see if it continues, whether they can continue the balance, because inevitably, as much as I'm a big Star Trek nerd, we're also bound by continuity. Like, well, these characters can't be there because they weren't there in the original show. So it is doing that tight walk of that back and forth. And as much as I complain that J.J. Abrams' Star Trek ruined everything, I'm like, but all the years of Star Trek. And I was like, but then after you saw that, I was like, well, it's a parallel universe, and frankly, as opposed to this is not your dad's Star Trek.
They wrote it in there. That's
you.
Cool.
You have to update it because that science fiction is now dated. It's like watching the Flash Gordon stuff, and it's like, aha, we'll stop you, and like firing a laser, but like pew 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 pew. Like there's just things that need to be done. So let's go into. I give this a 9.5. So now we're going straight into.
You can bust my chops or give it 10. You guys are like off by one.
Well, it's a dramatic effect, John.
Yeah.
You give
well played. Well played.
Yeah. John, tell us your thoughts. Like so we'll go to spoilers now. So all Doctor Strange magic, if you get it.
Spoilers,
Strange.
although like a show like this, I think spoilers don't really matter because you're actually here.
It does, because when I saw Uncle Phil, I was like, Uncle Phil! Oh my God, no.
New Uncle Phil.
New Uncle Phil showed up, and I was like, dude, like another great. I guess he was free in Canada because clearly, this Strange New Worlds is, if those of you don't know, filmed in York region.
It's in Mississauga, I think. I think it's filmed in Mississauga. Like
no, it's filmed downtown. But they filmed at York. So when they're in the spaceship, like on the alien world, like and outside, I was like, oh, I know that's Berry Hall. That's York University, like the place I went to school. So like for me, I was like, oh, they're filming at York. Like Discovery filmed at Hamilton. Like they're filming all in the GTA because that's where Star Trek films.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So overall, like I said, like it kind of treads familiar ground. So you have characters like Spock. You have the Enterprise. You have them wearing all these familiar uniforms. You have characters that seem to be plucked, like Uhura and stuff like that, are all like legacy. But you've also got this kind of like new element to it. Like I know Pike is an existing character. I've actually seen that episode of original Trek where he's in the chair and all that kind of stuff. So kudos to them for actually writing it into the story. I'm like, hey, wait, isn't this guy's destiny to end up in this in the chair with horribly disfigured and stuff? And they wrote it in. It's in there. Yeah. They wrote it in there, and he's struggling with this, which I think is the vulnerability that Stu talks about. As a captain, he knows his fate is to have this happen to him, but he still shows up. That's why he was hesitant to come back and all that kind of stuff. But I was trying to pinpoint exactly why this show is working for me. And I think it's the cast, the way the cast gels together.
Is it Mystique? Is it Rebecca Romijn? You're in?
Yeah, it helps. It helps that she shows up later, and then becomes a part of the. I guess she's part of regular crew in episode 2 and stuff like that. But I think just the way the whole cast gels together, you can watch. You just want to watch them interact. So no matter how silly missions get or whatever the problem with the episode is, it's not really important if you have such a good cast, crew, and all that you want to see interact and work together. And I will touch on the fact that Stu said, yeah, Pike is hell of a handsome man. This guy playing him, so with the gray hair, I'm like, hey, I don't mind if my hair turns gray if I can achieve this look. I'm down. I'll just rock a yellow kind of gold shirt all day, and I'll be down. And I really like Spock, so we get a little bit of Spock in here, so we get this kind of funny robot-like character that you can do all these kind of great things with. And the show looks spectacular. I don't know what else I can say about it, but it just seems seems to hit on all these things. And then also, even this particular episode, didn't have a big action finish. It actually, they kind of go for like a thinking man's or a thinking person's solution to this problem they've encountered, and I liked it. I really liked it. So
and the nod to the thing they're calling the Prime Directive. So I think that this show does that, like John, the cast. You know, this is something where Star Trek fans are very divided. There's a thing where it comes to diversity and inclusion, and there's something you go a little overboard. I think you could say Discovery at points have gone really above and beyond in terms of inclusion, like in terms of representation, and then this show is sprinkling people in where it makes sense, because we know
we've had this discussion before. You have different, like, so when you look around the bridge, I'm like, oh, it's normal to have all these different casts of characters, different races,
different aliens, like things like the one thing that Star Trek for the new shows have done that's better than before was that in Star Trek, even in TNG, like we saw aliens, but not on the bridge really. Like they were never really there. They're kind of there, but you know, like Mott the Barber was pretty much the coolest alien with the Enterprise had, and he was just cutting Picard's hair, which didn't really need to be cut, but he was just there. So this
I saw him playing poker with them once in a while.
Yeah, like with the aliens and whatnot, like they're really doing a good job. But that's what you can do when you're 12 episodes a season and CGI and prosthetics are looking better. But yeah, I feel like they did a really good job, and I'm going to get Rob's thoughts momentarily in the cast, because whether it was, you know, Spock, we did get Doctor Who alumnus Christina Chong in it. We have Babs from Dune. Every time I see him, I was like, oh, you're from Dune. So yeah, Rob, give us your thoughts on the show, and did you like any of the new characters? Because we know there were things in the show that had to be addressed, like, oh, there's no chief medical officer, there's a new chief medical officer, there's a chief engineer, there's people that are missing from Enterprise. But
Rob was down with chief medical officer in her white uniform. That's a welcome casting.
So Rob, thoughts?
Yeah, so listen, I've already explained what my thoughts are on how it looks aesthetically. I think it's great. You know, I like the fact that they tied in some exposition about what Pike went through in Discovery. So that's why he knows what his fate is destined to be. And that also then ties into the crux of why this new race had the bomb, right? The warp bomb. They put it all together, thereby driving individuals to say, oh, I didn't realize, and maybe would go back into Discovery season 3 and then watch those episodes to get a fuller sense of why we find these characters where they are now. I will say that the characters in Star Trek is an interesting thing, because the fandom has allowed different actors to portray Doctor Who. They've allowed different actors to portray Batman, James Bond. But when it has come to Star Trek, it's, hey, don't mess around with Spock. Leonard Nimoy is Spock. William Shatner is James T. Kirk. That's it. No more. J.J. Abrams in 2009 flips it and says, well, no, these are just characters. You can have different actors embody these characters. Get themselves all, bent out of shape. And we saw a little bit of that last year in Discovery season 3 or 2 years ago when Ethan Peck was cast as Spock. We're like, well, wait a minute. And yet I think they've all done such a good job. Nobody's disrespecting Leonard Nimoy or William Shatner, but these are just characters. And I think there's now becoming a little bit of an acceptance to say, maybe I don't need to hold on to these guys as hard as I did, which sounds dirty than I meant it to. But I don't need to hold on to these because they are just characters. My characters are still there and my actors are portraying them. So I actually really enjoy what they've done. I think Ethan Peck's Spock is vastly different than Zachary Quinto's from the movies, and which is obviously different from Leonard Nimoy, but it's not Spock. It's just a different version of Spock, which I'm fine with. I think Anson Mount as Pike is great. I mean, we've only seen Pike twice before, again, from the original pilot, and then the first episode of the original series, and then as played by Bruce Campbell in the JJ movies. So to see
Greenwood.
No, not Bruce Greenwood. Is it Bruce Greenwood? Okay, sorry, Canadian Bruce Greenwood. Okay,
yeah. Bruce Campbell is the actor from Doctor Strange, Pizza Papa.
Right, sorry, yeah, that's why we were just talking. Yeah, but Bruce Greenwood, and then now to see Anson Mount to do a totally different Pike than what we've seen before, right? So, I'm all down for this. The thing about Discovery is, as much as it's a good show. It's an enjoyable show, I should say.
The
technology is way too futuristic. Like, it just is out of the realm of
problem.
But it's out of the realm of plausibility. Whereas this one, though,
the problem is Michael Burnham as a captain is brutal, and Christopher Pike is a better captain. And you have the conviction of when you have a good captain, it's the difference between Picard and Janeway. It's like the same thing. It's like, oh man, when the captain is just like, I get it, you're fine, but like. Pike did so much in the first 3 minutes of this episode. Like, he wakes up the beard, he's either the captain, and he was like,
he's riding horseback and
he's being awesome riding horseback. And then Uncle Phil shows up and is like, I need you. And he's like, I need to figure this out. I'm not ready. Like, I don't know. And he's like, no, I need you out there. And like, then you can quit afterwards. Like, this is
and he goes, it's not an ask, it's an order. Yeah. But what I was going to say, though, Stu, is that all of the problems in Discovery are solved based on technology, like based on what they can do to manipulate technology to solve the problem for them. And yet in this first episode, it was ingenuity and smarts of Pike working with his crew that came up with a solution. That was what I was going to say, is that the technology is so out there.
I just think that it's yes and no, Rob. I think the issue with
no.
I said no. No. I think this one is back to its roots in terms of like, it's maybe we aren't doing, the Discovery was like, they're all connective tissue. This is all for a greater storyline. And I don't know whether based on episode 2, whether the only storyline that things can be consistent is Spock and T'Pring and Pike. Like, that's it. Everything else is like, we're not going to worry about the world building. We're not worried about a giant monster. Like, we're going to do a monster of the week. We're going to do, introduction of new aliens. We're going to do Star Trek stuff. And we're not going to worry about the fact that, this spore drive is the most important device in the entire universe.
Right. That's their mulligan.
It is just, it's not just technology. It's just like Star Trek is about strange new worlds. Be doing what Star Captains and the Enterprise does. First contact. All this. Discovery stopped doing that. It was all about, like trying to fix problems. And as much as I love Odette Fair couldn't even fix it. And he fixes everything, man. That dude's the bomb and the mummy. So
I see what Rob's saying though, with you basically get to see the gears that the captain goes through to try and figure it.
Well, Michael Burnham does it too. Like, there are episodes where she uses a logic and stuff to do it. It's fine. It's like
but it's all based on a technology that they can. Hey, let's do this. Take this, put this together, and then we can solve it.
Not in the episode where they do the logic forum, where they use logic to figure out like on
out of 28.
Did they still run on trilithium crystals? Do they require that?
In the future, without spoilers. Is
it like XCOM where you have to research the different and then you get and there's like, oh, we solved this episode.
Yeah, they're trying to do the field source, John. Let's just say in the future, dilithium is just like gasoline. It's a resource that's limited, and they got to find different ways to fly in space.
Right.
So that's not a surprise. I thought the characters were all great. I like Nurse Chapel. I like everyone. I'm curious to see the new chief engineer because they left that out. And then what did you think of the Kirk curveball at the end of the episode, Rob?
Well, it's interesting because before this episode dropped, about 2 weeks before, they announced an actor has been cast to play
Paul Wesley.
And they have a shot of him lounging in the captain's chair. Yeah. And so when they're talking about Kirk and then he was late to get to the ship, and then Lieutenant Kirk, and you realize it's a whole different. You're like, oh, that's a weird. it did throw me off a little bit because he also was wearing porn stashes mustache from Orange is the New Black. But I was just like, oh, it kind of threw me off a little bit. And admittedly, that was the one part I was like, I don't know about that, but all right.
To be fair, he is a canon character.
Okay.
George Samuel Kirk exists. He's the brother of Kirk. He was in Star Trek. He was an episode of the original Star Trek. So this is all canonical. So it's not like a brand new character. This is a character that already exists, just like number one.
Put him in a red shirt. Let him last couple episodes.
I did because number one existed, but the as we all know the story. So Gene Roddenberry had picked an actress to be number one, and the censors were just like, we can't have a woman be first officer. Like, it can't be done. So we had to so originally he wanted first officer, and then they've now by this fixed the mistake based on, back then. And shout out to Lucille Ball, because without her, Star Trek would not be possible. So she is the reason that Star Trek exists. So we tip our hat to her, because without I Love Lucy, we would not have any Star Trek, because she went to bat and she, made a ton of money herself, but nonetheless, Desilu Productions. John, so you've watched episode 2. Without spoiling it, does it keep the adrenaline up? Are you in? Now you're gonna watch all of Star Trek?
I really enjoyed episode 2, so it's kind of a shame that you guys didn't get a chance to watch it yet. So I'm looking forward to hearing what you guys think of episode 2.
If you're this jazzed, we can do end of season wrap up. If you really want, John, Rob and me are always down to watch Star Trek, especially good Star Trek. So we can do the end of the season discussion, because I'm confident that I don't know if we want to do week by week.
I'm down to do episode by episode, but we'll see. Who's your MVP from this episode? If I can get a quick question in.
I thought Lana Noonien Singh was the MVP in my book, in terms of just she's like, oh, my ankle. I'm like, what? And then she's kind of like, she had some moments to shine. I know everyone will say it's Pike. Pike was already an established character. Mm-hmm. All those scenes of him looking at stuff was pretty much from Discovery. So all that's not new, it's old. And he did get dialogue. But I'm just saying, the character I didn't expect anything from, it was her. Because she just had some things that happened, and I'm like, oh. And then the name itself, I'm like, oh no. I'm like, so it's before or after? So I did like her stories about, fighting the lizard people in the gladiator pits, and she was the last one. All that stuff was cool stories. I'm like, all right, cool. And they didn't have to do a visual of her fighting the green lizard monster from OG Trek, but it was nice about the gore and stuff. So I thought it was really well done. Yeah. And Rob, you?
Yeah, I would agree with you. But I'm gonna go with Spock, and the only reason I'm gonna say it is because he was a different version than what we saw in Discovery. In Discovery, he had longer hair, he had a beard. That was a big controversy as well. This Spock was rocking this full-on beard and stuff like that, and he was going through a little bit of a mental health crisis in Discovery. So I thought it was pretty cool, and we almost got to see him get some action.
He almost saw some Vulcan action. I shout out whoever the actress that performing that plays Uhura, because she didn't get many parts, but
Celia Rose Gooden.
Yeah. Whenever they cut to her, she looked really kind of excited to be there. And then there's a scene where she's in the elevator, and that guy the guy that just gets up and goes on the run, and then she just kind of hey, and then starts talking to him about I guess local sports or something like that.
Yeah.
To distract him. I thought she was great in that. So I just really like seeing that. But yeah, like you said, Pike, I think he's the charisma that kind of got me to even look at this show.
I'm interested to see more Nurse Chapel. That was fun, because even the whole
she was really she's a
you're a guy person. She's way to just demean my position. It's you just fly a ship. So I thought it was had its moments. Again, I'm excited to watch this show in terms of, it is still, the timeline is happening, because we Trek nerds know that he does not command the ship for very long. or he does, but I don't know how this is gonna like. Are they gonna get rid of him and bring in Kirk? Like, kind of just want Pike. Like, I don't need Kirk at this point. Like, I got enough Kirk stories. I kind of want to know Pike's story. I kind of want to know these people. Like, I don't need more of Kirk because we have a zillion stories of them. So we'll see what happens. I'm curious to see how many seasons or how long they can carry this for, because we all know all these characters, like the Noonien Singh character, and Benga, like the Doctor. There's a new chief engineer that's not going to be there very long. So like these are things that we know that are not they're not finite. So let us know in the comments. Do you want to hear us talk about Trek more? Let us know. Give your thoughts below. Any final thoughts, Rob, on Star Trek: Strange New Worlds?
No, I just think even if you're not a Trekkie, I think there's a lot of baggage with Star Trek. Yeah. If you're not, you don't need to have watched anything before. I just think it's a fun show, and I think people should give it a shot, because I think that it's so easily accessible for people who have zero comprehension of Star Trek, or people who actually are big Star Trek fans. So,
John?
Yeah, I think you should definitely check it out. I really like this. I don't know if you could call this part of the whole prestige TV thing, but it does look hella nice. So I feel like it is. I've been really looking for something that's episodic with some threads that are going to continue. Yep. And so far, 2 episodes in, this is exactly what I wanted out of this type of show. So I'm very happy with it.
My close second in terms of like stole the show is Gia Sanhu from Says to Pring, where they're like in the restaurant and he's like waiting for her to propose, and then they like kiss and the waiter. Like,
there's a whole like it's like query,
like,
and then
have some shit like, guys, be respectful. And like they're in an empty restaurant, the two of them kiss, and they're like out of control.
They get asked to leave by the maitre d', and it's like, yo, you guys got to take this ball.
Yeah, even that scene where like they're like on the bed and they're like talking and she's in the background. It's like, yeah, I'll be there, and then she's just giving some snide remarks in the background. I'm like,
oh yeah. Bro. The guy's like, are you naked? And she was like, he was gonna be, and then she was like, it was actually a great scene.
It was great. So I think So it's, again, at the end of the day, we're blessed to have the show Star Trek, both shows filmed in Toronto, because it gives opportunity for Toronto Canadian actors, as well as all the fabulous production staff and all things happening. So keep on watching Star Trek. Let's keep on having it filmed in Canada, because man, oh man. I'm not gonna lie, when they did the auction for Trek stuff, like I looked at a lot of stuff and I'm like, ooh, but I might cave and buy some Strange New World stuff. Maybe I'll see if I can find like John, you said, that yellow shirt, man. Like maybe I'll buy it. Or
look, like the picture I've got here, the uniforms look amazing, everything, and the bridge looks fantastic.
Although So
I've always wanted to recreate the bridge somewhere. Like if you had an extra room in your house or whatever, you just make it look like super high tech. And I wasn't even a hardcore Trek fan before.
It's just weird when they do the change, because like yellow is command and then it switches to red, and I'm just like, I don't understand. Yellow is supposed to be what's happening. So because yellow becomes security and something afterwards when they switch over, but. God, that yellow looks great. All right, John, where can they find you on the internets and in the real world?
Yeah, so Heroes World Online takes you to all our links. They'll be in the description, the website, all that kind of stuff. We just got in copies of the brand new Star Trek game, Missions from WizKids Games. It's a really fast kind of card game that's based off, I forgot what this is. It's based off an existing system, but it's got a Star Trek skin on it, where you get to choose all the different captains and recruit people on your team and complete missions. So definitely check that out. I'll put the link for that in the description as well. So thank you everybody for always supporting, and let us know if you want to talk more Trek. We've got access to these nerds here. So
I'm just waiting for Pike at this standpoint. Get me more Pike, the dreamboat that is Christopher Pike. Rob, what's
Yeah, so this Monday, 8:15 p.m. live on the Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch streams, Heroes World Online, John and I are going to be talking about the summer movie season. It is upon us. We just saw Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness. We've got Top Gun Maverick coming up in 2 weeks, and it is on fire. So
Danger Zone.
So we are gonna. It is gonna be on. It's gonna take our breath away. So we're gonna go check out. We're gonna talk about our picks for summer 2022 of our movies and what you should be looking out for. So definitely join us Monday night, 8:15 live, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch, and bring us the movies that you're looking forward to seeing. Is there a ringer in there that you're thinking, hey, I want to go check it out, and I want to give us a shout out. Let us know. So join us on Monday.
Yeah. Shout out to Uncle Phil, a proud alumnus of a small show called Mantis.
Did he play the lead in Mantis?
No.
That was Carl Lumbly. Come on.
Sean, Carl Lumbly, who was in Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Oh, yes.
As well as he's the voice.
I was like, wait a second. I feel like it's been too big of a gap.
He's the voice of Martian Manhunter in the Justice League cartoon. And Mantis, of course, was created by Sam Raimi's. Full circle, baby. Full circle.
And Carl Lumbly was also in Alias, which was created by J.J. Abrams, who directed Star Trek.
Yep. It's the kid keeps on giving. So there we go.
There you go.
Thank you for joining us today. Be safe out there. We'll see you soon. Let us know in the comments. Trek, your love for it. Let us know what you think of Strange New Worlds. We'll see you guys soon.